There was a video that came out last night. It's called Where Did Blizzard Go?, talking about what I can only assume is the slight, maybe more than slight, deterioration of Activision Blizzard, which is now actually Microsoft Activision Blizzard. Let's take a look at this. What has happened to our beloved?
Blizzard used to be the king of gaming, and
That's
everything
true.
they touched was gold. But in the past 10 years, Blizzard has been in decline, and the people who once made it great,
No
left
doubt.
one by one.
The product genius that
This is Steve Jobs. The product genius. You've all seen that clip. Look at these guys. What year is this? This is a team that is pumping out games. Maybe, I don't know when this photo's taken.
brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out.
What drove them away from the company they loved? Where did they end up? Let's take a look, starting with Ben Brode. Now, Ben made a massive impact in his 15 years with Blizzard. Starting out as a tester for Warcraft, he eventually became the director of Hearthstone. But he wasn't just a director. He was the touch point between fans and Blizzard. And those...
Listen, I think we have to acknowledge Hearthstone maybe these days is not so popular. Okay, it is what it is. It's gone downhill. The first year, maybe 2 years of Hearthstone, it was poppin'. Hearthstone, back in the day when it first came out, Hearthstone was good. Like, Hearthstone actually was really good. It was fun.
Fans absolutely loved him.
Yeah, this is awesome.
He brought so much fun to every video he was in, and he felt like someone who just loved Hearthstone. But in 2018, just 3 years later, he would resign from Blizzard altogether.
And yesterday, Ben Brode announced he was leaving Hearthstone.
A similar case to Ben is Jeff Kaplan. Just like how Ben was the face of Hearthstone,
Mr. Overwatch.
Jeff was the face of Overwatch. Despite being the vice president of a multi-billion-dollar company, he felt like this passionate developer, always there to talk to fans in forums or in videos about the game's development, and of course was subject to many memes.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful developer on the Overwatch.
Jeff Kaplan is one of these guys that, like, he had just been around forever. So his origin, he was the guild leader of the best EverQuest guild, and then he and his guild hopped over to play Vanilla WoW in 2004 when it came out, and he was super active on the forums. He was always giving feedback, oftentimes in a very, like, sort of rude or maybe, like, inflammatory way. Like he would go on the Blizzard forums, the Battle.net forums in, like, 2004, 2005, and like he would say, yo, this encounter sucks. You guys are brain dead. Make a better, like, he would post feedback like that. And somehow, guess what? That got him a job. He got hired. He worked on the World of Warcraft team, I don't know, for 10 years, and then he started pioneering Overwatch. He was Mr. Overwatch.
Team.
But much to the dismay of fans, Jeff resigned in 2021 after being with Blizzard for close to 20 years. Rob Pardo followed the same path. Rob was the original lead designer of both WoW and Warcraft 3, and eventually became the chief creative officer. His accomplishments and contributions were so notable that he was in Times Magazine top 100 most influential people in 2000.
Really? I didn't know that. That's crazy.
2006. But Rob resigned, like the rest, leaving in 2014. The list of veteran talent goes on. Wei Wang, an incredible artist who produced iconic pieces for Warcraft games, departed in 2017. Brian Birmingham, a lead software engineer on World of Warcraft, Hearthstone.
He was like one of the two big Classic WoW guys, and so of course he had a history at Blizzard before Classic WoW.
And WoW Classic, left after 17 years.
Yeah.
Scott Mercer.
Do you guys remember why Brian Birmingham ended up leaving? Do you remember why? He had to participate. He was like a project lead for the Classic team, and he had sort of like a DEI employee rating protocol system that he had to work through, where he actually necessarily had to give some of his employees a bad review per this program. And he said, listen, all my employees are doing a good job. Everyone on the Classic team, I'm proud of all of them, and we're getting shit done, and I refuse to give anyone on my team a bad rating just because some other people need to be given good ratings, and you can guess what other type of people need to be given good ratings. He said, I'm not going to do it. And you know what happened? He said he was so resolute in that stance, he left the team. He said, listen, if it's I need to leave Blizzard, if it's like if I'm getting fired or leaving, or I have to give people on my team a bad review, a bad rating, which is going to sabotage their career, guess what? I'm out. He packed his shit. He wouldn't do it. He left. Good for him.
Left after 17 years. Scott Mercer, who worked on the original StarCraft, WoW, and Overwatch, left in 2023 after 26 years. Tim Morton, the lead producer of StarCraft 2, left in 2020. Frank Pierce, one of the Blizzard co-founders and the executive producer of all these World of Warcraft expansions, left in 2019 after 28 years. This isn't even a fraction of the list. And sadly, this trend is continuing. Recently, the president of Blizzard resigned as Microsoft announced 1,900 layoffs.
Shake-up on the leadership front with Blizzard president Mike Ybarra deciding to leave the company.
Blizzard was...
They cannot keep anyone in this role. Okay, first it was Mike Morhaime, and then they passed it to J. Allen Brack, and then they passed it to, it was actually a woman whose name I forget, and Mike Ibarra. They were going to be co-leaders of Blizzard, and then the woman after 2 weeks resigned, and so then it was just Mike Ibarra, and then within 2 years, Mike Ibarra's gone, and now I don't know. They're playing like hot potato with this position. No one can hold it for very long.
Founded and maintained by these incredible people who are great at their job, but more importantly, loved their job. These games had passion behind every one of them, thanks to the hardworking teams. But now, the people and passion are gone. To give you perspective on how fast things have fallen apart, at the 2016 BlizzCon, 5 senior members celebrated 25 years of Blizzard together. Today, only one of them is still at the company, with Alan Adham being the most recent casualty. Now, many people cite the death of Blizzard to Activision, believing the merger between these two companies, along with King, cemented the fact that the studio was no longer just a bunch of game developers, but a corporate conglomerate.
It's about the money.
True, this isn't the full story. For one, Activision and Blizzard didn't technically merge at all. In fact, Blizzard has never been an independent company.
How come we didn't mention Alex Afrasiabi? So this is 2021, 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, when the Californian sexual assault lawsuit first hit the news, hit the press. There were a bunch of Blizzard employees that got kicked out. Alex Afrasiabi was one of them, but ultimately there were like 5 or 6 of them. I would guess we're not talking about any of those people because they left under bad circumstances rather than good or like different. They left under different circumstances. I'll put it that way, okay? Yeah, I think we're probably not going to talk about them.
As far back as 1994, before the first Warcraft, Blizzard was acquired by Davidson and Associates for less than $7 million, before they were even called Blizzard. Then Davidson was acquired by CUC International in 1996. Then CUC merged with another company to form Sendent a year later, who then sold Blizzard to another company, Havas, the following year, who was then acquired by Vivendi that same year. Confusing?
And then they stayed with Vivendi for a while.
Absolutely. But it shows us what really happened. Blizzard has been at the mercy of their parent companies for decades. But luckily, they were able to retain their culture and talent through it all. But that was about to change. In 2008, Activision merged with Vivendi Games. But they opted to call the new merger Activision Blizzard. Not Activision or Activision Vivendi, Activision Blizzard. Blizzard was just a subsidiary at the time, so why call it that? Well, even though the company was sold over and over, the company had expanded from a small studio to a globally recognized brand.
Also, this is 2008, 2009. At this point, what did you say? At this point, Blizzard is a huge name. Everybody knows it. The name Blizzard by 2008, it carried a lot of capital, had a lot of weight. So if you've got Blizzard and your name Activision Blizzard, people say, oh, wow, maybe we're legit. Because at this point, Blizzard was killing it. Wrath had just come out. You've got Diablo 2, StarCraft Brood War. You've got World of Warcraft. You've got, what else? You've got the Warcraft 3 franchise. Blizzard was a household name. Maybe the biggest, most successful PC game publisher in the world. People cared about it. That's why you put Blizzard in the name, because it sells copies, it sells games.
A brand created by a team of passionate and talented developers. And this brand's value had grown from a few $1 million into billions. And
nice.
People were taking notice. That's why the merger was called Activision Blizzard, and why it even happened in the first place. They had an incredible reputation, incredible games, and incredible people.
Hey, thank you, Place.
You might be thinking, screw Activision. How did they do this to our beloved Blizzard? But you need to remember, this merger happened in 2008. Back then, Activision had a very different reputation. One, pretty similar to Blizzard, and
yeah, like this is also a good point. Activision wasn't really known for being as shameless or evil, as terrible as it is today. They had Call of Duty, they had Crash Bandicoot. Guitar Hero was one of the... Remember, now Guitar Hero is dead. No one cares, but go back in time to 2008. Guitar Hero was one of the hottest games in the world. People liked Activision back then.
Being acquired was nothing new for the company. But one person would change all of that. The main person orchestrating the billion-dollar merger.
Bobby Kotick was excellent at improving a company's revenue.
He purchased a nearly bankrupt Activision and turned it into one of the most lucrative companies.
Bobby
in
knows
the
how to
industry.
make money.
However, Bobby Kotick's approach to profitability was quite different to Blizzard's and many other video game publisher CEOs at the time. You know how every game today feels like a sequel, reboot, or a spin-off? Yeah, we can thank Bobby Dick. Excuse me. Kotick for that.
Kotick.
Bobby's perspective on video games was one entirely focused on revenue. While revenue is vital, Moby Kotick took it to another level. Our strategy has been to focus on the products that we know if we release today.
Listen, there's a fine line, okay? Video games do need to make money. Otherwise, guess what? There's going to be no video games. It is a business you're conducting here. The objective is to make money. But can you go too far with that? Can you get a little bit too shameless to the point where it actually is kneecapping the games, where it's making the games worse, where it's actually maybe even killing franchises? No doubt. And so did Bobby Kotick take things a little bit too far? Not a little bit, a lot bit, yeah.
We'll be working on 10 years from now. Narrow and deep has been essential in our strategy of how you expand operating margins. Narrow and deep and expanding profit margins. So Bobby's plan was to squeeze their IPs for everything they had, and he was determined to ramp up this strategy, not only with Activision, but with Blizzard. He saw their IPs as the perfect product to do this.
Beautiful money.
Decade after decade.
Yep.
So if good old Bobby D couldn't run a game into the ground,
yeah, he looked at the World of Warcraft player base and he said, yeah, these people are mentally ill and addicted. Okay, mentally ill, addicted. Yo, I can make a lot of money from these guys. In the same way that a crack dealer makes a lot of money selling crack. Let's go. Let's make some money.
he didn't want it. Beating
And by the way,
force
he was
to
right.
the extreme.
That feels good. Very strong.
Sorry, Thunder. I gotta put you down.
But his strategy did work for a while. Activision Blizzard quickly went from big to ginormous. By 2014, it was the 5th largest gaming company in the world by revenue. Soon enough, they became independent again by purchasing back the shares from Vivendi. So why does this matter? Well, because it begins to show us the real problem with Blizzard. Bobby Kotick was excellent at generating money, but his narrow and deep strategy had long-term consequences that took years to appear. While things didn't change much at first, the approach to game development slowly trickled down to every part of the company.
Dude, do you guys remember, this is maybe 2009, it's in the middle of Classic Wrath, and the Celestial, God, what's it called? The Celestial Steed hits the real money, not real money, hits the in-game shop, and you could buy the mount, the Celestial Steed, for $20, I think it was, maybe $15. I remember people went crazy. People lost their minds. There were riots. People were RP walking around Dalaran. They were pissed off. And that was just one mount. Now, man, you get a new mount every month. If we knew how crazy things were going to be in 2008, how they are in 2024, man, I don't even know what we would have done. People were pissed, though.
The employees. Teams across the company were no longer encouraged and rewarded for quality, but instead were punished for lack of output. Executives began making managers rank their employees based on output, not quality.
Okay, this is the stack ranking system, and this is based on DEI protocol agenda. This is why Brian Birmingham left Blizzard a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. This is the program I'm talking about.
Not quality.
Oh, you know what? That article is actually talking about him.
While it's normal for team leaders to improve productivity, the stack ranking quota required that at least 5% of the staff be labeled developing, which really just means poor performance, meaning lower bonuses, fewer pay raises, and fewer promotions. It didn't matter if 100% of the team was producing great work, some of them had to suffer. And that brings us to Brian Birmingham. Brian, like many lead developers, had been dodging these quotas for years, but he couldn't outrun them forever. Upper management forced him to label some employees as underperforming. The reason given by executive leadership was that it was important to squeeze the bottom most performers as a way to make sure everybody continues to grow. But in reality, growth just means output, which brings all kinds of terrible consequences. This sort of policy encourages competition between employees, causes people to sabotage one another's work.
True.
Not to mention, it ultimately erodes trust and destroys.
Bro, like if you're working on a team, let's say you've got 11 people on the team, and so the mandate is 5% of every single team has to be designated as developing, meaning you're the worst person on the team. Okay, and that might mean that your job is compromised. That might mean you got to go. You're getting laid off, maybe, is what that could mean. If you've got 11 or 12 people on a team, okay, that means one person on the team is going to be designated as such. Do you think this is true that you have coworkers that are sabotaging each other, not helping each other out, eroding trust, saying, hey, listen, I don't want it to be me. That means it's got to be you. Okay, I'm not going to help you out with your work, with your coding, with your objective. I'm not going to spend my time. I'm going to spend my time making sure that that I'm safe, okay? In fact, I actually want you to fail because then it takes the heat off of me. This is not a good system.
For his creativity. Brian refused, and unless the policy would be removed, he threatened to leave Blizzard. Unfortunately, his demands weren't met, and it cost him his job of 17 years. Fans were outraged, but Brian's case is just one of many. This has been happening at Blizzard.
I got to say, good on him for doing this. Good on him for making a stand. And by the way, he's got a wife and kids. He said, listen, out of principle, I can't do this. I'm going to take a risk, okay? I'm a principled man. I'm not going to tolerate this. Because he totally could have just thrown someone on his team under the bus and kept working there and kept making the paycheck. Okay? He stood up for his principle. Good for him.
For a while now, Blizzard didn't go from great to terrible in a day. But little by little, their culture gradually eroded, and so did their pool of talent. That's why so many incredible developers have left. But from Bobby Kotick's perspective, this was fine. Because another reason his narrow and deep strategy was so successful was because it was easy to attract developers and pay them below market wage, thanks to the popularity of the Blizzard IP. So talent became a replenishable resource. Bobby Beluga once said publicly that his goal was to take all the fun out of making video games, and that the company's employees incentive program really rewards profit and nothing else. Both of these things make for better business, but is why Activision Blizzard is in the state that they're in. They stopped valuing talent and started valuing output, which is why every game is over-monetized and why everyone who helped build Blizzard is gone. The issue wasn't that Activision Blizzard was run by business people, as many people like to say. The issue was leadership didn't care. They didn't see Warcraft, Overwatch, or Diablo as video games or art, but as IP to be exploited. To put it in perspective, Blizzard...
So when you say, man, World of Warcraft, these Blizzard games back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, they had soul. S-O-V-L. They were Kino. They had soul, man. What changed? The soul in the games, it is an expression of the people that made the games, and the people that made these games, they got ran out of town. Okay? They're gone.
Blizzard's founder and former CEO, Mike Morhaime, made $12 million the year he left. Sounds like a lot until you compare it to Bobby's, who was speculated to make $375 million following the Microsoft acquisition.
Wow.
On top of all the millions he's made in the past. Bobby Calamari was there to make Blizzard successful in the short term, because that's what made him the most money. But if you're a good CEO, being successful isn't just making money for the company. It means building products people will love and building a company that will outlast you once you're gone.
You know, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Obviously, I don't like Bobby Kotick, and I don't like the way that a lot of these Blizzard games have gone over the last 15, 20 years. Let me play devil's advocate, though. Okay? Is the share price up over 15 years? Okay, 15 years ago, Bobby takes over. Okay? Is the share price up? Let me hold up. Let me pull this up. ATVI stock. Okay, hold up. Can I find this? I want to do... Maybe I need to click on historical data. I'm trying to find... Who cares? Well, the shareholders care. That's why. Can I do... Hold up. Let me go max. Okay, here we go, max. Okay, so listen. Bobby takes over 2008. Okay? 2008 is here. And look what happens after Bobby takes over. Wow. So in 2008, it was... what, $18, and now we're looking at, guess what, it's $94, and this is Bobby Kotick. He mooned this. He took this thing to the goddamn moon. He did. And by the way, at the cost of a lot of these games, but he made a lot of people a lot of money, and that's why it depends on how you define good CEO. You know, in a lot of ways, I guess if you look at the metrics, he was a good CEO. I think a lot of us here, we'd say, man, he was a bad CEO because he killed a lot of games and made a lot of the games worse. But if his job as CEO is to make money, what did he do? This guy made money.
So the people that can make the company more successful are sales and marketing people. And they end up running the companies. And the product people get driven out of the decision-making forums. And the companies forget what it means to make great products. Sort of the product sensibility and the product genius that brought them to that monopolistic position gets rotted out by people running these companies who have no conception of a good product versus a bad product. They have no conception of the craftsmanship that's required to take a good idea and turn it into a good product. And they really have no feeling in their hearts, usually, about wanting to really help the customers.
This is one of the most infamous and true and correct business-related monologues of all time. What Steve Jobs is saying here is so entirely on point and has happened in all different sectors of business, all different types of business companies. It has happened so many times, and we all know 100 different examples. He is so on point.
That brings me to my main point. Blizzard isn't the company. It was the people. People like Rob, Mike, Ben, Jeff, Tim, and so many more. People who built Blizzard because they wanted to make games everyone loved. Blizzard is a company of gamers. We love our games, and we play our games, and we want to continue to support them as long as we possibly can.
The problem is that it makes money. It's all everyone's rewarded. Well, listen, okay. Gaming, how can I explain this? There are so many more gamers today in 2024 playing PC games, playing computer games, even console games than there were in 2008. Okay? This is 16 years later. There are, I would say, hundreds of millions of more gamers, okay? And all these new gamers, a lot of them, they didn't grow up in the era that a lot of us did. They don't have the same video game principles or expectations of what a game should be. I'm going to draw an image here that is based on nothing. Maybe the old school gamers, guys like you, guys like me, that are like, hold up, cosmetic mount, I'm not buying that. Hold up, I'm not buying this, I'm not buying that. I don't want my game to have pay-to-win functionality. I don't want to have to spend money to be competitive in this game. I'm not buying that shit, and I don't want my game to be that way either. In fact, I'm not going to play that game. Guess what? We're a minority. If you feel that way, if you're like me, you are a minority, okay? And how do I know that? Because this stuff works, and it keeps making money, and people keep getting baited by it. In fact, I think most people don't even care. It's not that they're just like, whatever. Yeah, I wish it wasn't the case, but whatever. I think it's the opposite. I think most gamers these days, they're like, oh, wow, new mount? New pay-to-win functionality? Oh, yeah, I can't wait for that. I think it's more like that. And so when I say this is us, okay, I'll make this a bit thicker. This is us. I think most people, they're here, and they love it, okay? And so we could be sitting here lamenting the way that gaming has gone or the Activision Blizzard Entertainment has gone. Guess what? I think most people like it, and I hate to say it, but I think it's true. Otherwise, it wouldn't be working, and it wouldn't keep making money the way that it does.
We're definitely focused on quality first and foremost. Quality is the secret ingredient to fun. This seems like a wildly different company to the Blizzard of today, but it's the Blizzard I loved from my youth. So where are these people now? Where did the people that built Blizzard go? Well, these beloved developers are all scattered, split up at companies around the world making great games like Stormgate.
Because a storm's coming.
This sci-fi RTS just raised shy of $2 million on Kickstarter, about 20 times its original goal, with me being a happy contributor. The reason? It's awesome. This game is dripping with classic Blizzard charm, because it's literally a...
Does this look like an old Blizzard game? Does it? I've never seen this game before, but I'll tell you what, it does. It looks like an old school Blizzard game.
Game made by the seasoned Blizzard developers who made the RTS games we love. People like Tim Morton, the production director on StarCraft 2, and Tim Campbell, a lead campaign designer of Warcraft 3. These guys are the RTS experts. And what's crazy is that they got some talent. Their team is jam-packed with people who came from Blizzard, most of which worked on StarCraft and Warcraft for years. This is where Blizzard went. Almost all these people who made Blizzard great are still doing the same thing, making games they and others love. Ben Brode, the face of Hearthstone, founded his own studio, Second Dinner, and made his own award-winning card game Marvel Snap. Rob Pardo founded Bonfire Studios and recruited many seasoned Blizzard developers. Chris Kalecki did the same thing, founding Notorious Studios with another Blizzard employee, with most of the current employees having worked on WoW, Hearthstone, and Overwatch.
I think they're working at Dreamhaven, right?
Brian Birmingham founded Unleashed Games, who worked on everything from Hearthstone to the original WoW.
I didn't
Mike
know
Morhaime,
that.
Blizzard's original longtime CEO, has founded his own development and publishing company, Dreamhaven.
So, as far as I understand it, a lot of the World of Warcraft talent that you guys know, a lot of the OGs, they've been scooped up by Mike Morhaim's Dreamhaven, and they're working diligently on a yet unannounced project. I would expect big things out of Dreamhaven in the future, to be honest.
Own development and publishing company Dreamhaven, and he brought many of Blizzard's veterans with him. Blizzard isn't the company.
Yes, he did.
It's the people. The real Blizzard is all over the gaming industry, creating new, innovative games they want to make with a great culture. The icing on the cake is that most of these studios immediately got millions in funding because investors know how valuable their experience is.
It's because all the people leading these studios, they're sort of tried and true veterans of the industry. These guys make good games.
It's baffling how little Activision Blizzard cared for their talent.
Yeah.
And they'll pay for it for decades. This is an example of a studio getting too big for its britches and forgetting the passion they once had. If you're feeling nostalgic over the golden age, I encourage you to follow the same developers that created it. They're still out there, most of them creating new and novel experiences, returning the focus back from giant profit margins and terrible work culture to creating art and valuing talent. The only exception is Jeff Kaplan, the beloved face of Overwatch, who has somehow disappeared since leaving Blizzard. But if you were to follow the same path as...
So I heard a rumor that Jeff Kaplan froze himself inside of an iceberg, and that he's floating in a frozen iceberg in the Antarctic Ocean, and that someday he will reemerge and he will create the best game of all time.
As his peers,
yeah,
there's no doubt Overwatch fans would flock to whatever he creates. Support these talented individuals. Embrace their new endeavors. The real Blizzard we all love is still making games. They're just in different places. Plus, with Activision Blizzard being acquired by Microsoft and Bobby Kotick finally leaving the mantle of CEO behind, there might be some hope for the company. They aren't starting off great with all the layoffs, and they've been slowly killing some of our favorite franchises like Overwatch, but a man can hope. My goal with Going Indie is to help people learn more about the business of video games. I've covered a lot of topics from VR to free-to-play models.
There you have it.
If you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe to be notified when we post our next video. Thanks for watching.
No, I really do. This is a great video. I do think in the next probably 4 or 5 years that a lot of these new sort of pop-up game dev studios that are created by ex-Blizzard boys, I think that we see a lot of really promising games come out of these studios in the next half decade, 4 or 5 years, like I said. Optimistic, fingers crossed, knock on wood. There's a link to that. I'm going to upvote that. Great video.